Hello, today I'm going to be opening another one of these commander decks. This one is newer ones, the Screech Kamigawa Rivteers for rampage. And we're going to see what's inside. So I'm just going to look at the box real quick. Put you some of the new cards, as well as some, just like it says, Screech Commander and that kind of stuff. It's the still stuff they put in here. So let's see this. Let's see what's in here. Oh, this is actually really easy to open. That's really in there. Crap, this is really tight. I'm gonna have to rip this off. Okay, so, got the deck there, here's the box. So, looks like they gave us some counters. Use these punch out as counters or victory confetti. Well, this is let's punch these out and see what they look like. So I assume this is where you put your commander? It's like a command zone, kind of? That's pretty cool, but kind of unnecessary. Oh, is this just art? Wow, that's ridiculous. They used to give us those giant commanders. Now they just give us an art of the commander. I mean, it's nice and foily, but it's not even a real card. At least I don't think it is. I gotta open this box a little more and figure it out. I'll get all these punched out. Like, they're cool and all, but honestly, you can just use dice. But I guess if you're new to Commander and you don't have any dice on hand, you'll just pick this up. It's nice. But I feel like being cardboard, I feel like you're gonna lose them after a few games. So you're gonna eventually just have to buy dice anyway, because they're better and you're not gonna lose them. Okay, there's all the counters. There's some blue ones. There's a blue one. There's a black one. Looks like the blue shines a little bit. I don't know if you can really see. It's a little hard to put up. It's all right. It shines in the light there. And yeah, this is just an art. So that's nice, but there's this deck box, and this is kind of new. Remember when they used to do the other boxes? So let's get everything out. So we have a piece of cardboard, I guess, to extend storage. More stuff in here. Got a little spin dial. You can change your life again. It's a nice inclusion, but you can only go up to 20. Oh, go up to 40 here. I mean, it's cute, but once you get dice, this is kind of effectively useless. It's a nice inclusion. So let's open this little thing here. This is it's a little hard to fit in camera, but I'll kind of. So it just kind of gives you a little bit of description about the commander, and then this thing, they do it all the time, but I never used it. And then just kind of gives you some basics about commander and some rules, like just stuff it's useful, but it's enough. That's fine. We get this little collector. What this is? Let's open it. Maybe these are like foils or something. So we get two cards. We get Messenger's Charm and Today's Truce. What is this? Oh, it's just FNM. These are cool. Like, this is alternative art, and this is rare. I guess these are collectors versions, which is nice. So it's foil, but alright, let's set this on the side. To get to the part that you probably came here for, the commander deck. So as usual, they give you a commander. They usually give you a backup commander. Maybe free. I don't know if they do free anymore. And then they give you a new card and then just a bunch of reprints. So let's first look at the commander himself. Is he toolbox torrent? This is for a black, red, and green. It's a free double rogue. Each creature spell with a mana value of 4 or greater has Blitz, and the Blitz equal is mana cost. Where you can cast this creature for its Blitz cost. It gains haste, but it dies at the end of the turn, but you get to draw a card when it dies. And also your Blitz will cost 1 less for each time you play your command here from the command zone, which this is an interesting theme. So you kind of want to get these big creatures into play, give them haste, swing them, and then get some value off of when they die because you get to replace them. This is an interesting mechanic. I kind of like it. And they give you a backup commander, the Beantown Bullies, which is for 1 black, red, and green. It's a 4/4 Orc Devil Warrior. And haste, and you can tap it. Target opponent whose turn it is, you get to put a non-legendary creature from your graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. It gains haste and it's goaded, but at the end step it's exiled. So goad means that it has to attack, but it can't attack you. And so this is an interesting design, since you can give your opponent a bunch of really bad stuff that's usually unplayable, but this actually kind of makes them really good. Because you can just like say, oh hey, I'm going to give this really bad creature, and now you get to deal with the consequences of having it. This is actually a pretty interesting design. This is like a whole nother build by itself, because this one wants to cheat big creatures. This one wants you to give your opponent bad creatures. I like the design, but I think unless this deck somehow is built around it, you gotta make your own commander deck for this. Now with the 2 commanders out of the way, at least the ones they advertise, the rest of the deck. So I guess they're going to be the new cards on top. So we got Glittering Stockpile, Tuna Red, Artifact. It's a treasure. That's interesting. So you tap to put add a red and put a stash counter on it. And you can also tap it to sacrifice it. Add X mana of any one color. X number of stash counters on it. This is an interesting ramp, sort of. It's for kind of slow, since each turn just gives you a free mana, and then whenever you want, you can just get rid of all that and just gain a bunch of mana. This is a little expensive, but this is not too bad, especially for red. That doesn't get the best ramp ever. It's decent. So we get the Rivteer's charm. I guess they're getting charms in all this set. So for black, red, and a green, it's an instant. You choose one. You can either make an opponent sacrifice a creature or planeswalker. They control the highest mana value among all their creatures and planeswalkers they control. Exile top 3 cards of your library until your next end step. You may play those cards, or you can just exile players. These are actually all pretty decent effects. The first effect is probably the weakest, but still pretty decent. In the right hand is Moto. So the second effect is pretty good. It lets you basically get free cards for 2 turns, which kind of reminds me of Escape to the Wilds a little bit, but a little worse. And then Exile Grip, it's always useful if you don't have like a Torment Crypt or something. This is pretty decent. It's a little costly at 3 different colors. A Rivteer's Overlook. This is a land. When it enters, you have to sacrifice it, but then you get to search for a basic swamp, mountain, or forest, put into play tapped, and shuffle the library and get 1 life. This is... it's okay. I wouldn't say this is like the best land ever. It's basically like the only buff I would say this over something like Evolving Wilds is the fact that you gain a life, which is a very minor bonus. I'd probably play Evolving Wilds over this, but I guess this is okay. So then maybe some of the creatures next. You got Artisan of Kozilek. It's a 9 mana color spell draws you. When you cast it, you return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. And also has Annihilator 2, which means when you sacrifice it, that player sacrifices 2 permanents. This is actually a pretty decent creature, especially in this deck, as you can, as supposedly the commander wants you to play a bunch of scary things, and this is pretty good since you'd be sacrificing them at the end step anyway, so you get to get 1 back. And this is pretty decent stats and decent ability. This is pretty good in the deck. Next we have Victimize. 2 and a black, the sorcery, you choose 2 creatures in your graveyard. Sacrifice a creature, and then you get to return those to the battlefield tap. This is the cheapest recursion spell ever, but it's decent enough. You get to bring back 1, you have to sacrifice 1. Or you're giving it back 2 and sacrifice 1. It's a little pricey, but it's worth it, especially in a creature-heavy deck. Negative Explorer is just a good ramp in general. 1 green, you can play just a land this turn, draw a card. It's always a decent card in just about any deck. That's just a decent ramp. I've always liked this card, so cool. Next we get another ramp card, Farseek. For 1 and a green, you get the search your library for our plains, island, swamp, or mountain, put into play, tap, shuffle. This is like rampant growth, but it's a little worse since you can't search for forest. But I mean, it's alright. You get to search out any of those lands, which the majority of the time you're going to be getting probably a swamp. Next we get Garrick Sunrise. I actually need this for another deck, so that's pretty useful. But this is an enchantment, Tuna green. When enters, if you control a creature power 4 greater, draw a card. Your creatures have trample. And whenever a creature power 4 enters battlefield, you control, draw a card. This seems like pretty good synergy with the deck, as you're playing a lot of big creatures, so you can not only get to give them trample, they'll have haste, and then you also get to draw extra cards when they enter. This is pretty useful, actually. Let's get Indirect Stomp Hauler, which is it's pretty pricey, but decent. For 4 and a green, it's a 4/4 beast. When enters the battlefield, you destroy an artifact or enchantment. This is a pretty decent creature if you can get it out easier. Otherwise, it's most times just expensive reclamation stage, but it's synergetic. It's cool. You have Kadama's Reach. This card's been played 1,000 times. But if you didn't know, it's a 2 and a green. It's also an arcane spell, which usually never comes up, but it's funny. Well, you get to search for 2 basics. You put 1 to play tab. The other one goes in your hand. Basic ramp. You've probably seen this 1,000 times. There's Lyric Cultivates, the same card. But this is just nice to always have. I see a Migration Path for 3 and a green. You have to search for 2 basic, 1 to play tab. So it's Cycling. So you can discard it and pay 2 to draw a card. Cycling always makes a card better. This one's a little pricey. It's like Explosive Vegetation. But Explosive Vegetation was slightly better. This is decent for budget overall, but I would say, and if you're playing a more expensive deck, I think you should think it. You have Overgrown Battlement. This is a 1 green for a 0/4 wall with Defender. You can tap and add a green for each creature with Defender you control. I'm not sure much Defender synergy there's in this deck, to the fact that all your creatures are big, so it's probably just going to be a tap to add a green, which is just makes it a worse land anywhere else. But I guess it's somewhat better since it has more defense and combined stats overall. Next we have Rampant Growth. Well, speak of that. Just 1 green, search for basic. This card's old and it's just a decent ramp card overall. Then you got Chimera. This is actually a pretty good card, not gonna lie. I've been in a play group where someone's always been able to combo off with this card. It's a pretty good card. So for 2 double green, you get a 4/3 cat. And you can tap 1 green to return our creature control in the graveyard to give this card indestructible. This is a really solid card. It's also good in this deck because what you can do is with the Blitz mechanic, you can put your creatures into play, and then before they die, you can return to your hand, and then this creature will get indestructible, which is also a really good ability since it means it can dodge removal a lot of the time. Yeah, this is pretty good. It's probably like $1 or something because it's uncommon. Still pretty good. Next we had Death Reap Ritual. This is a 2 black and a green for enchantment. It has Morbid, so at the end of every turn, if a creature died, this turn you get to draw a card. It's kind of slow, it's a little pricey, but it's a good effect. You get to draw cards. So yeah, nothing really else. Let's get Terminate. Oh, this is a classic removal. Just a black and a red for an instant. Destroy creature, can't be regenerated. Generally doesn't come up too often, but it's a nice bonus. So it's a decent removal spell. There are some removal spells that outclass it, but still pretty good for Next you have Arcane Signet. This is like the Soul Ring now, where they put in like every commander deck. But basically you pay 2, it's an artifact, you get to tap it for any mana of your color, which is basically just a free mana. This is a pretty good reprint that they put in these. It's very nice. They give pretty much every deck now since it came out in Throne of Eldraine, this card. Even though it's a little pricey, it's because it's just a good card. It's a good staple. So yeah, next we get Commander Spray. I haven't seen this card in a while. But it's free mana, you get to tap it for a color. You also get to sacrifice it at any time to draw a card. The fact that this just lets you draw a card means that early on you can use it as efficient ramp. But later on when you don't need it, or if your opponent's about to board wipe like artifacts and stuff, you can just get a free card out of it. This is pretty solid. It's a little slow, but yeah, it's good. Next you got Blowing Marler. So 4 and a black. It's a 4/6 Oak Warrior. At the beginning of your end step, each player loses 4 life unless they sacrifice a non-token creature. This is a little pricey, but I mean, it does punish opponents for playing more control decks, don't want creatures. But most time you want to blitz this in because you can still get 1 trigger, and if you sacrifice him, well, it doesn't really matter, he's going to die anyway. So, next you get Protection Racket. For 2 and a black, you get enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you repeat this effect for each opponent turn and you reveal the top card of your deck. They can pay life equal to that card's cost, and then if they do, you exile it, otherwise you get to just add to your hand. This is a pretty okay, this is actually a pretty good draw effect, since the Phyrexian Radiant was just a free draw every turn. This is a little bit better since it forces your opponent to either pay life to exile it, or they have to give it to you. I'm sure life in Commander is pretty expendable, but eventually there's going to be at a point where they just can't pay the life, so it's like you get to draw up to 3 cards every turn, bonus. It's 2 normal draw, which is a pretty good payoff. Next you have Wave of Rats. For 3 and a black, you get a 4/2 rat with trample. When it dies, if it dealt combat damage this turn, returns the battlefield under its owner's control, and it also has Blitz itself at 4 and a black, so this is actually pretty good, as it can keep coming back with the Blitz mechanic. Since you can cast it, you can do damage, and it'll die, but then when it dies, it will come back at the end step, which means it'll basically never die if you continuously attack it. Next you got Industrial Advancement. For 3 and a red, you get enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you can sacrifice a creature, and if you do, you look at top X cards of your library. X is that creature's mana value, and you get to put a creature thrown into play the rest of the bottom of your library. This is pretty good, as you can kind of cycle through your deck for creatures. It's kind of a gamble since you need to have actual bunch of creatures, but considering the fact that this deck is a creature heavy deck, you're probably fine to cheat something into play. Next you got Miso's Mugger. For 4 and a red, you get a free find as Rogue. When it attacks, you exile the top card of each player's library. You can play those cards this turn, and then you can spend mana as though they're mana of any color, cast them. He also has Blitz and Tuna Red. This is a decent like draw effect if you're running out of cards. You can get up to 4 cards that you can play for a turn. It's decent. You can especially cheat them out. Next you have Reign of Riches. For 3 and double red, you get enchantment. When it's battlefield, you get to treat 2 treasure tokens. And the first spell you cast each turn that has mana, that mana from a treasure was spent to cast, is Cascade, which Cascade means when you cast that spell, you get to exile cards top of your library to hit a non-land card with converted mana cost less than that, and then you get to play that card for free. So basically you get to play 2 cards, as long as that card is at less cost than the card you play. This is actually a pretty solid card, as Cascade's a pretty powerful mechanic, especially if you build your deck correctly. And the fact that this just gives you 2 mana right away, just for playing it, is really solid. I bet you this is a pretty good card. Next you have Turf War. For 4 and a red, you get an enchantment. When there's the battle, for each player you put a contested counter on target land they control. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, if that player controls 1 or more lands with contested counters on them, that creature's controller gains control of 1 of those lands of his or her choice and untaps it. This is kind of slow, as it's already 5 mana for enchantment that does nothing when it hits play. So you kind of have to set this up, and all you get is just to steal a land permanently, which is a decent payoff. It's a little slow, but in Commander, this is probably gonna be a really fun politic card. So since you can just steal the best land. Yeah, this seems like a pretty fun but somewhat slow card. Next you got Catalyst Guardian. For 3 and a green, you get a 4/3 human soldier, and whenever it or another creature you control with mana value 4 dies, you get to create 2 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens, and he also has Blitz for 2 and a green. This is decent, as it does pay you, as the Blitz mechanic does work very well with this. As you just get 2 1/1s anytime one of your big creatures die, which is what you're gonna be doing with this deck. This is pretty cool. Next you got dodgy, jallowby, which for 2 and a green you get an artifact creature with an unknown power and 5 toughness. With trample, adds powers equal to the highest mana value among creatures control. Also has crew free, which in case you didn't know is where you have to tap any amount of creature control with at least free power in order to make this card a creature until end of turn. It's also a scavenge for 2 and a green, which means you exile from your graveyard to put a number of +1 counters equal to this card's power on target creature. This is interesting, since this can get pretty big in a hurry, and it's very easy to crew because of its the fact you're going to guarantee at least free power on this thing. This is an interesting design. The fact there's a vehicle here kind of surprises me. Next you have is First Responder. For 3 and a green you get a free org citizen with vigilance. At the beginning of your end step you can return another creature you control to your hand. Then put more 1/1 counters equal to that creature's power on First Responder. This is really good with the Blitz mechanic again, since you can last minute save your creature before it'll die, so you can replay it and then this creature gets bigger. Also, the fact that this vigilance means this could be a really big beater. It's a pretty cool synergetic card overall. I like it. Next you have Next of Kin. For 2 and a green you get a Chimera, which chance creature, and when that creature dies you can put a creature you own with a less mana value from your hand or command zone to play. And if you do, you return this card to the battlefield, test that creature at the beginning of the next end step. So this kind of reminds me of Animate Dead a little bit, except you get it from your own stuff. Except it does have to be a smaller converted mana cost, which makes it kind of it's a cool design, but the fact that the Blitz mechanic kind of works with this really well makes it really fun. Next we got Grogger. For 2 black and a green you get a free horror with Menace, and when it attacks you can exile up to 1 card for each card type from an opponent's graveyard, from that player's graveyard. And you put a card from this card for each card exiled. So this card is pretty good, as it's hard to block, but also keeps getting bigger while removing threats from your opponent's graveyard, which there's bound to be at least. This is a pretty cool design. This seems like a pretty good card by itself, even if it is 4 mana. Next you got Jolene the Plunder Queen, which for 4 red and green you get a 2/2 human warrior legendary. Whenever a player attacks one or more of your opponents, that attacking player creates a treasure token. And if you would create 1 or more treasure tokens, you create that many +1, and you can sacrifice 5 treasure tokens, put 5 counters on this. Being a green card is kind of interesting since treasures aren't that common in that, but red there's a lot of treasure mechanics, so this is probably a fun deck to play around where you just make a bunch of treasure and manipulate treasures. Seems pretty cool. Next you got the Rivteer's Confluence, which for 2 black, red, and green you get a sorcery. Let you choose free, and you can choose the same ability more than twice, where you can either draw a card and lose a life. This card will do 1 damage to each creature and planes where you don't control, or you can put a land from your hand or give it to battlefield attack. These are all pretty decent. They're all kind of like meh effects. They're just neat. Like, I would say the second effect is probably the best one here, because the fact that it lets you kill off a bunch of small creatures, it lets you do up to 3 damage, which is actually pretty good. It's like kind of like a worse Awaken the Gods in that manner, but also the cheat land effect is kind of decent if you need a bunch of lands, and the draw effect is always going to be good. This is a decent card. Next you get the Weathered Sentinels. For 3 mana you get a 2/5 artifact wall. Defender, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. My goodness, a lot of keywords. And when this card can attack players who attacked you during their last turn, as though it didn't have Defender. And when it attacks, it gets +3/+3 and indestructible. Oh my goodness, this is a lot. So it starts out as a wall with a bunch of keywords with pretty decent stats, and it basically punishes players for trying to attack you while you have this in play, because then this can attack them back. And when it does, it'll be a 5/8 with indestructible, vigilance, reach, and trail, which is a lot of keywords, to say the least. So this is a pretty good card. This is like a good pillow fort type of card to punish players for attacking you. You should get Ether Snap. For free and double black, you get a sorcery which removes all counters from all permanents and exiles all tokens. This is kind of situational, as it's only going to work against certain decks very well, as only certain decks are going to be making a lot of tokens and playing counters in general. This is an overall okay card. It's a little expensive, especially for that effect. But I mean, the right matchup, this card can win you the game. Next you get Deathbringer Legend, and it's a 5 and a double black for a 5/6 flying dragon. Whereas battlefield, if you cast it from your hand and there are 5 or more other creatures on play, destroy all other creatures. This is a pretty good effect, especially for how pricey it is, as you just get the Wrath of God, everything else. But it is very expensive. Again, it's 7 mana, and it only pops up if there's enough creatures in play. So you kind of cheat this out with the Blitz, and you get to blow up the board while you also get to attack with this for 5 damage. Pretty good. Next you got Disciple of Bolas. For free and a black, you get a 2/1 human wizard, and when it enters battlefield, you sacrifice another creature. And you gain X life and draw X cards, X creature's power. A lot of good synergy in this. This is actually a pretty good card in the deck, as you have another creature with Blitz in the field that's about to die, you just get to turn that into life gain and card draw. That is a very good value, especially for this deck. Big creatures. You get Noxious Gearhold. For 4 and double black, you get a 5/4 artifact construct with Menace. Whereas battlefield, you can destroy another creature, and if a creature destroys weight, you gain life equal to its toughness. It's actually a pretty decent bomb, as you get a decent statly creature that also gives you some life while also destroying a creature. It is a little expensive at 6 mana, but it's definitely worth it, especially with Blitz. Next you get Painful Truce. For Tuna Black, you get a Sorcery Converge from Xenekar, where Converge will give you effect depending on how many colors of mana you spent to use this. In this case, you have to draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the whatever color spent to cast this. And if this is decent, as it lets you draw up to 3 cards if you have the correct manas for it. But again, not bad. Next we get SMS Act. Oh, this card. So for 8 and a red, you get a sorcery, which it costs more or less for every creature in play. And this card does 13 damage to each creature. This effectively blows up pretty much the whole board. Maybe there's like 1 or 2 alive and indestructible, or somehow there's a creature big enough to survive this. But most of the time, it's going to be a board clear. And the fact that this spell can go down up to 1 red mana pretty easily makes it a really solid board, especially for red. I just get Chaos Warp. Oh, this is a really good card too. So for Tuna Red, it's an instant. It's kind of wacky, where you shuffle any permanent into someone's deck, but then they shuffle it, and then they flip the top card, and if it's a permanent, they get to put into play. It's a very high variance card, as you need to just be extremely lucky that they hit a land or something that's not really worthwhile. And there's also a chance you can just literally give them the same permanent, which is kind of weird but funny. It's just a really interesting red card design, because it's not one we see that often. Yeah, Tali, Primal Storm is a pretty fun card. For 4 and a double red, you get a 6/6 Elder Dino Legendary. And when it attacks, you exile top card of each player's library, and you can cast a member of those spells from unknown value their mana cost. This is pretty good with Blitz. It's a gains haste, so you immediately get to play up to 4 cards potentially most of the time. Most of the time it's going to be like 3 or 2 cards, but this is a pretty fun card, as you pretty easily get this effect. You can outvalue your opponent with card advantage, and with Blitz, it's even better. Next we got Infernal Titan. So for 4 and double red, you get a 6/6 Titan. That's the traditional fire breathing effect, where you can pay a red to give it an attack for a turn. But also when it enters the battlefield attacks, you get to do 3 damage divided, which these are always pretty good, as it lets you get rid of either 1 somewhat big creature, or lets you get rid of 2 to 3 smaller creatures that are just being pesky. And the fact that it gains effect when it attacks means it's an excellent Blitz target, as you get to do the effect twice, which means before it even does damage, you get to do 6 damage to stuff, which is pretty good. Especially, it makes you very controllable. Next you get Stalking Vengeance, which for 5 and double red, you get a 5/5 avatar with haste. And whenever another creature control dies, it deals near equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. With Blitz, again, this is really good, as it lets you throw around a lot of damage, as most of the cards you're going to be playing are a lot higher mana value. So when those big creatures die, you get to throw like 7 or 8 damage at someone's face, which effectively means you get to double the damage to them. This can get really out of hand really quickly, if you'll stop it. Next you get Warm Storm Surge, which for 5 in a red is enchantment, and whenever a creature enters battle from your control, you get to do damage to its power to any target. Really solid effect, as it lets you bait unconventionally fight creatures, except you get the effect multiple times, so you can either use this to burn other players or slowly pick off other creatures, which is pretty fun. Next we got Avenger Xenekar. This is actually one of my favorite cards. So this is a 5 in double green. It's a 5/5 elemental. When enters, get a 0/1 plant for each land you control. And with landfall, which means anytime a land enters player in your control, you can put up a Chimera in each player control. This card can single-handedly get very out of hand, especially with multiple land drops in a landfall deck. But this doesn't seem like the most landfall heavy deck, so just praying here because the fact that you just get all these plants right away, and you can also get a 5/5 of haste, which is it's pretty good. Next you got Evolutionary Leap, which for 1 green you get a enchantment, where you can pay a single green, sacrifice a creature, and you get to flip cards, tap your deck till you hit a creature, you get to add that card to your hand, the rest of the bottom of your library. Again, amazing with Blitz. This is really cheap as well, so you can do it pretty much every turn where you cast a creature with Blitz, attack, make phase 2, sacrifice it, get another creature, next turn you get to play it again, and you just get this repeatable factor where you see what a Blitz a creature every single turn, and this is just gives you a really good value. Next you get Giant Appendage, which for 5 in double green you get a 7/7 insect with trample, and whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, you get to create a token version of this card, which with Blitz is kind of broken, since you just get to immediately get a free copy of this card, and this card can easily get out of control if not dealt with like right away. As you could just keep attacking, get more copies, and it could just get out of control of all these giant insects running around. Just get Green War and Masra, another favorite of mine, where you get 4 in double green, 5/4 elemental. When it enters battlefield, you get to return any card you give it to your hand, and when it dies, you can exile to do it again. This is pretty good with Blitz because you'll get the trigger twice, while also getting a 5 attacker with haste. It just gives you some really good recovery on top of having some pretty decent stats. Next, get Life's Legacy. For 4 and a green, you get a sorcery, which requires you to sacrifice a creature to play this. But you get to draw cards equal to its power. Again, really good with Blitz, for probably the reason I've said 1,000 times, because of the high power of creatures in your deck. You can easily cheat this out. You can easily cheat this, like draw 7 cards just basically for nothing with a Blitz creature, while not really losing much value. Next up, you got Muttonic Slime, which for 4 and a green, you get a 4/4 ooze, and when it dies, you get 2 oozes, which when those die, you get 2 1/1 oozes. This kind of reminds me of that weird thing where it's like it gets out of control really quickly, where it's like it just gives you more and more creatures over time. It kind of reminds me of that card on World Coil Engine, except worse. This is still pretty good, as you just get a 4/4, and then at the end step you'll get 2 2s, and then you'll get 4 1/1s, potentially. You get a lot of power out of this, you just won't get it right away. Next you get Frag Test. Oh, this is a classic. 4 and a green for a 5 free beast. When it's battlefield, you gain 5 life, but when it leaves the battlefield, you create a beast. The nice thing about this card is that it's not a death trigger, it's literally the battlefield trigger, which is pretty rare, which means if it's exiled, you'll still get the trigger, which is usually the problem with most of these cards. And you get both the triggers right away if you use it with Blitz. So that's pretty good. Pretty solid creature to cheat out. Next you get the Tree Sticker Chimera, probably one of my favorite arts in the game. Just looks really awesome. 5 in a double green for an 8/5 Chimera, and forces all creatures to block this card if able. But when it dies, you get to draw a free card, which if you play this correctly, you can just win the game, as you can just build a big board of nonsense and then they have to block all their stuff to this card, which means you can do a lot of damage to them. And you also get to draw a bunch of cards when it dies. Great with Blitz too, since you'll get the death trigger no matter what. So you get to draw 4 cards just playing this like Blitz. Pretty crazy. Next you get Footfall Primal Menace. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but for 5 and triple green. Ooh, it's kind of expensive. You get a Tree Folk Shaman. When it's battlefield, you can destroy a non-creature permanent. It also has Persist, which means if it dies, if it has no -1/-1 counters on it, it comes back into play with -1 counter. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised there's not more Blitz creatures in here, because Blitz or Persist is really good with Blitz mechanic. Because it'll just get to come back. It's a little weaker, but you'll get those triggers again. I'm surprised there's not more of these, because this one's kind of insane. This card just lets you start taking out big permanents. Big problematic permanents. So, next up is World Shapter. For free and a green, you get a free merfolk. When it attacks, you can mill yourself for free. When it dies, you get all lands from your graveyard to play tap. This could just be a complete blowout for your opponent. It's very unexpected. It's really good with Blitz, as you get a free mill, and then you get to get that really awesome death trigger right away. Next up, you have, this could be another commander, Crush the Bloodbraiden. For 2 black, red, and green, you get a free human warrior. Whenever another creature dies, you get to put counters on this equal to one of that card's power. That's pretty good. I'm gonna go for these a little quicker now. Next, you get Windsqueeze Judgment. This is a Reaper 2018. Oh, this is nice to get a sync copy of, but for free, black and a green, you get an instant, which for each opponent, you get to destroy an island permanent they control. Really solid removal. Lightcrafter Bestiary. Free mana for an artifact, which at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to scry 1. And if you cast a creature, you get to pay 3 draw a card. This is really getting creature heavy decks. And just lets you dig for your deck and find the resources that you need. Next, you get a classic Psalm Simulacrum or Sad Golem, where you pay 4 for a 2/2 artifact Golem. When it enters, you get to find a basic, put into play tap. When it dies, draw a card. This is really good with Blitz, as you get that great death trigger and that great enter battlefield trigger. And then we're just going to kind of go through, because there's just lands here. Cinderglade, this is a pretty decent land. You get Zack Orchard, pretty good. Footburn Ruins, and the Game Trail are just both those bad shock lands. You get Keswick Rollfront. This gives you some pretty good values. You can give your creature a bunch of power. Moss Fire Valley, not bad. Mosscourt Bridge. Highway, I'm surprised there's none of more highway cards, as you will have a bunch of big creatures, but you can. This is pretty good. Shadow Blood Ridge, pretty good mana. Smoldering Marsh, these are pretty good. Another Hideaway, I like these Hideaway cards, pretty fun. Temple Murray, the Scry, tap Scrylam. Twilight Mirror, or Mare, pretty good utility land there. Then we get some more cards. We get Fellar Stone, which for 2 and an artifact, you get to add 1 mana of any color that land opponent controls could produce. So most of the time you're going to be able to get at least 2 colors. Sometimes free, but most of the time you're going to get 2. Next up, you got the good old Soul Rain. This card's like printed every goddamn set. It's classic, but if you don't know what Soul Rain does, because you're new, it's a 1-mana artifact. You get to tap for 2 colors. It's one of the best ramps in Commander. Probably one of the most iconic cards in Commander, as it kind of symbolizes the format. You also got some lands. Ashburn, basic land cycle, basically allows you to cycle it for a basic. Biting Woodlands, it has explosive vegetation on a stick. Command Tower is always a really solid land just about any deck. Jump Panorama is basically Evolving Wilds. Mirror Landscape lets you get 2 lands. Path of Ancestry, it gives you a little bit of scry triggers, while also being a good land in general. Savage Lands is the tap tree color lands, tri-color lands. Double Fault Guards is just Soul Rain, but kind of worse. Thriving Bluff, and then Thriving Grove, Thriving Mourn. These are all monocolored lands, which are kind of slow, since they make you choose a color, and then you can either add the chosen color or just the color on the land. And then finally we got some basics. Got some swamps, mountains, forests. You just get some alternative arts, full art lands. That's pretty nice. And then what's this? You get a foil art version of the Commander, which is, that looks really nice. Look at that. Oh, it's thick. Oh my god, that's thick. Holy crap. I don't think you can see this right now, but look how thick that is. That's like 2 cards at least. That's pretty sick. And then it looks like you get some tokens, you get some oozes, you get some citizens, you get a treasure, you get more of these counter things. Are these double-sided? Yes, they are. So you get more treasures. And some plant tokens. Overall, what do you think of the commander deck? This is a pretty cool commander deck. I kind of like the theme of it, where you just get big creatures out, and then you sacrifice them for value. It's a pretty fun mechanic. I can see some really interesting build rounds. Cards they give you here are some pretty solid cards in here. Nothing really bad I can say about the deck. Just pretty good overall. So that's the video. Subscribe to all that YouTube stuff. You probably already know what to do. But I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.